For the last 35 years, the WWE has been on top in the sport entertainment world. However, NXT is starting to take over its fan base, and the WWE Universe is starting to lose faith in the writers and in the staff of the WWE. How do you guys feel about this?
Well, Jawan, like my good friend always said, the cream always rises to the top. And I think right now those young stars down in NXT, that's exactly what they're doing. They're taking their promos to the next level. They're taking their characters to the next level. And they are running with it. And it will continue to run free.
Quoting the great Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes. I agree with you, Jake. Not only the promos, they're actually having better matches, better wrestlers down there. Because you have like the same tired, oh hey, you're 50 years old, you want a match at WrestleMania? And even though there's a more deserving guy in the back. But no, you're getting like all the really good indie stars debuting in NXT, making a name for themselves in WWE. I mean, because NXT is the developmental system
for the WWE, right? But
yes.
It's starting to become its own entity. And two, there really isn't any jobbers in NXT.
Yeah, it's all...
Any person on that roster could win a match any given night.
Yeah.
Just goes to show the past tag team championship match, the Vaudevillains lost to Dash and Dawson.
And if
now,
they win it,
if
they win a title, they'll keep it and be able to defend it, and they'll rightfully be able to do so. They're not going to get stripped of it, even though they deserve it, in 30 seconds. It's written better.
Do you guys think Triple H, Will Regal, has anything to do with this?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Vince McMahon has been doing the old tired, and I'm sorry, I know this is a scholastic video, but old tired BS. I'm not going to actually say it, but you know what I mean. It's the old tired BS that has been going on. I mean,
he's starting to run dry.
Ever since
he's old.
Ever since this PG era started, I blame Linda McMahon for everything going downhill because she wanted to go for the Senate. Now, Triple H has this freaking brainchild, this golden black brainchild down that's going to be a farm system. Nah, that's not the farm system, that is the system. NXT is the future, and the future is now.
Do you think, though, that with NXT being hosted in a college campus, that's why it's drawing more of the college-age demographics?
I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. I think... Because also, like, a lot of people know, a lot of WWE stars are called superstars. I think that goes to some of their heads. I think that they become larger-than-life personalities, and that for some of them, they don't really have time for the fans. Whereas if you're an NXT superstar, you're gonna interact with the fans, you're going to make sure they have a good time, you're going to make sure everybody's happy, and you're not just there to put on a show, get a paycheck, and go to the next city.
I want to touch on that. It seems like they lost sight of what's real. And what's real is the WWE Universe, which is people like us who, for the next upcoming new pay-per-view, WWE versus NXT, it seems like they lost sight of that. Where when Finn Balor makes his entrance, everybody knows that. He goes to the crowd and people can pat him on the shoulder. There's a lot more crowd interaction. Bayley has a #1 fan who sits right there in the same spot. And Sasha Banks interacted with her in the middle of the 30-minute Iron Man, Iron Woman, whatever you want to call it, match. They had
it's also,
maybe 2 months ago.
I think it's also the acceptance from the fans. When a lot of new people come into the WWE, the fans don't always react the way that a lot of people would hope. Whereas in NXT, it's a very open arms experience. Right. Look at Asuka. As soon as she came out, her first match, everybody was chanting her name.
She was already over.
Let me just quote one of the chants that has been cycling ever since she debuted. Asuka's gonna kill you.
Exactly. Do you think, though, even though the WWE is PG, since NXT's on the network, do you think they can go a little more hardcore?
Well, actually I do. Because it's not on syndicated TV, you gotta pay for it. So you're basically...
look at others, not to cut you off, but look at other subscription-based, services that has a lot of blood, gore, sex, violence. HBO with Spartacus and True Blood and all that.
And Game of Thrones.
HBO's Game of Thrones?
I don't know.
Who
has
HBO has
HBO's Game of Thrones. HBO has a pirate show, too. Not to get off
Black
track,
Flag?
but yeah, I think
I
that's
don't
what it's
know
called.
what
It-
Not
it's
to get
something
off
with
track,
pirates.
But they're all subscription-based services that has all of the, for lack of a better word, non-PG, mixes
BS.
in it.
We
That
we
They
touched
even
on this
make
the
it.
other night when we were watching a different pay-per-view, not the one we're leading up to now, obviously. But
which
when-
WWE Universe NXT will take place right in the middle of where Fastlane was
be there.
in Philadelphia.
Opening
Wells
Square.
Fargo Center.
And we touched on it the other night. You could tell because it's a paid service. A pay-per-view is obviously a paid service. It's in the name, right?
Pay.
When I believe it was Sheamus was part of that tag team match.
with the New Day and
we
King
heard
Beck
and saw him say a certain expletive that you cannot say on live TV.
on live TV.
But because it's a pay-per-view, it's not illegal.
But there's a lot of chances it get censored on TV too, like the holy,
Yeah.
that doesn't get censored.
Daniel Bryan's
you
little
can
chant.
You
can
can't,
hear that. You can hear that on the pay-per-views, especially if you go back to the Royal Rumble in Philly
Any pay-per-view in Philly is going to be
in
censored.
January. It was not censored. Everything was, there. Like they couldn't censor anything out. So I think for NXT to evolve and take over its parent company, I think if they moved to more hardcore, not ripping off some of the old stuff that WWE did, but creating new content with a little more hardcore to it,
I'm glad you said hardcore.
I think they can kind of grow. And
Yeah.
maybe even, I think
I'm
what you're going to
glad
say.
you said hardcore. If NXT were to incorporate any kind of hardcore title, hardcore match, past street rules, past that, a more brutal kind of not necessarily.
So
bring back the
ECW.
belt. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
If they were to incorporate that'd put it over the top.
Yeah.
For me.
Now, they really already have the hardcore matches. I mean, seriously, we're going to go back to this match, the Iron Woman match with Bayley and Sasha Banks. Seriously, they used everything.
When Bailey got thrown into the
LED board.
The LED board.
They broke
She
the
broke
LED board on the stage. Then they were using the steel steps. Like, they were just smashing each other into the steel steps.
Throwing each other in the
It
barricades,
seems-
submission
It
moves.
seems like WWE just wants to lead everything. Everything that we want to see, you'll see at WrestleMania, but it'll take that time to lead up. Like, for example, Royal Rumble in Philly. Not good. It was not a good Royal Rumble. There was no more than 5 people in the ring at one time. Fast forward to WrestleMania during the Andre the Giant match. That's what
people
Royal
during one
Rumble
time.
should have been. That was fun to watch, and I wish that's what we got to see when Royal Rumble was here. But we had to wait.
Exactly.
And I don't like that they're doing that. It's, again, going back to the writing.
And I think so. Let me ask you guys this question. Then. Since we're marketing for the new pay-per-view WWE versus NXT, I want to ask you guys. Do you think WWE should just move to the network, or do you think that TV revenue that they get is so much more worth it than moving to the network?
I think it's worth it.
best for business to stay with TV.
I think because it is good for business, but I also don't think it's necessarily fair. If you want to bring in a certain demographic, perhaps a lower income family, what if a child John Cena? What if they love John Cena? If he has to pay to see him, he won't.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, right? So
Unless
I
it's
think
a lower cost.
if they made it more affordable, it's not economically
Unaffordable.
priced. Yeah, it's not
Well-
horrible, but I think that they would take a hit in their numbers and
They
in
would.
their and
Well,
everything
now
if they were to lower it.
to get on that point, nowadays a lot of people are starting to cancel TV and go with subscription-based services. A lot of people don't have cable; they have Netflix and Hulu, Amazon Prime. Why not throw in the WWE network? They got MLB TV, they got NHL Center Ice, they got NBA. Whatever the NBA is, they got
Center
NFL
Court?
Center Court, I think it is. They have NFL Red Zone, and that's a lot cheaper than paying for cable, because your cable bill can sometimes be upwards to $500, $600. So, I'm not saying yes now the WWE would or should move Raw and SmackDown to the network, but it might.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it's a horrible idea, but I think if they're going to do it, like you said, they should lower the price.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Definitely
from
lower-
$9.99 to
Like $5.99.
$5.99. You're not taking that much of a hit, especially because they just broke 1 million subscribers, didn't they?
And not only that, they're still getting revenues from T-shirt sales. ticket sales,
Yeah.
concessions at the show.
Heck, any
People like
kind of
me buying
merchandise.
title belts off. Yeah, any kind of merchandise. People like me buying title belts off of the web store instead of going to one of those knockoff wholesale stores. I'm buying right from the trusted source.
Well, we all have at least one of those shirts where on the shirt it's got the little fabric part there and it
Yeah,
says
tag.
WWE Authentic. The reason you're paying $25 for that shirt, $22 of that shirt is that tag. You're paying for the name, and that's it. And that's and which exactly going back to what we said, they can make the price lower because it's not like they're hemorrhaging money in any way. They're one of the biggest corporations there is.
That's
So
true.
let's say 3 years from now, who do you think is going to be on top? WWE or NXT?
I think if Vince McMahon steps down and Triple H is able to step in and fulfill the role of the WWE,
Brass.
there's a big shoes to fill because of where it is now, but I think he has the capability to do it. If Vince McMahon is still at the helm with WWE, I could definitely see NXT moving to bigger venues like stadiums. Well, not necessarily a stadium, but like Wells Fargo.
Instead of being
It could be the second show.
Instead of
Yeah.
being the
But it
pre
could be the
instead
show.
of being the pregame show, like how it is, like when they had SummerSlam in Brooklyn, they had NXT Takeover in Brooklyn at the same time.
Yeah.
Instead of it being the the pregame to the big show, it being the big show.
I would go as far to say that if the WWE continues down this path, I would love to see pay-per-view stay on Sundays, Raw on Mondays, NXT Thursdays.
NXT Thursdays.
Right, put that on TV. Market it the way that it should be marketed. I mean, even if they broadcast from the college campus and it's there every Thursday, then they could possibly make that live. So that way the story of Raw at least will stay more fresh instead of beating a dead horse.
Now, if they move it to TV, do you think it's going to start creating the problems that the WWE has now with Raw and SmackDown? Question number one. Question number two is, Vince McMahon doesn't really listen to his audience. People are begging him. They begged him for a while for Seth Rollins for the title change and for Seth Rollins to drop his title. He had to get hurt, not on purpose, but accidentally get hurt.
For it to change hands.
For it to change hands. If not, I'm sure the outcome of, last Sunday's pay-per-view would have been a little bit different.
Right.
It would have been, I don't think Sheamus would have cashed in. Or he would have lost his cash in, his Money in the Bank contract.
I think that if they would put it on TV, I would keep it as cutthroat as it is. Because a lot of people know that in NXT there's a lot of make or break moments in your career. Let's look at Tyler Breeze. He created that character because if he didn't come up with something good, he was going to get cut from the roster. I think they can make it live, and if you don't bring your best every week, and if you don't try your hardest every week, you're gone. There's no time for bullcrap here.
Here's why I say it should stay on the network. It's going to run into the same issues of the PG era. I know they're calling it the reality era now,
Right.
but it's going to be a PG product. They're not going to be able to go there.
Well,
There's going to be TV restrictions.
There's nothing reality with it with the Wyatt family gimmick, but that's a different conversation for another day. But go ahead.
Yeah, because it's always like these heels are like, oh yeah, we're always going to win because we just do the shorthanded tactics. That's what the reality era is. Like, oh yeah, we're the freaking bosses. We say what goes. That's the reality era. They're going to run into the same issues. It's going to be stale. Hell, I remember when I was a kid and WWF at the time had to apologize because Brian Pillman spit out a curse word by accident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that was great TV. You saw Stone Cold Steve Austin crushing beers on TV. You don't even see that anymore.
and the DS Express
And the DS Express.
and throwing the title belt off the bridge
Exactly.
and driving a Zamboni, crushing a light, and just going out there.
Anything
beating
that
the
happened in
man.
the Attitude Era was
Yeah,
cool.
everything that happened in the Attitude Era was
Everything
great.
was cool.
That captivated people. And now they're starting to move away from this. So I want to ask you, with this new pay-per-view coming up, WWE versus NXT, that's taking place on Fastlane, who do you think is going to bring their game more? The NXT roster or the WWE roster?
NXT
For
because they show the hunger. They show the willingness to go to that point. WWE, they're already there. The only people giving it a shot up there are the people who actually came from NXT. So, going back to the Attitude Era, you're going to see
I mean, you can
that
include-
you're going to see the invasion angle hit its point again, where you're going to have defectors from both sides.
With that, and you can also include John Cena. He didn't come from NXT, but he still goes at 100 miles an hour. But
He's the only person I think would bring it
I
from WWE.
I remember one point in time, then you can go ahead, Jake, Stone Cold Steve Austin said, there's a lot of people who's back there who's just okay with being on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And CM Punk was one of the ones who wasn't okay with being on TV. He bought it every night.
Yep.
And I can kind of see that now. The Miz, he's happy to be on TV, and just the Heath Slater just got his first TV time in probably about 5-6 months. They're all happy to be on TV. No one's bringing it. Everything seems so lackadaisical with the WWE roster that you're looking at, just boring gimmicks. I mean, Roman Reigns is bringing it, but they're saying he's boring because he got stuck with a bad gimmick. You
Him and Dean are both in it now.
Yeah, him and Dean are both in like bad gimmicks. Then you got guys like Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods who are great wrestlers, but they got stuck in this horrible gimmick with the New Day.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's great but bad at the same time. And now they're just really going off in love with this whole unicorn thing.
Yeah.
But again, that's a different topic for another day.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jay.
I agree with you, John, that NXT is definitely going to bring it more than WWE.
Which they're both. Yeah, I agree.
There are certain people on the roster in WWE who are fresh into the WWE who always want to bring it. The person that comes to mind is Neville.
Mm-hmm.
Because the kid's hungry. And he's amazing to watch. He's fun to watch. And he always brings it because he's hungry for it. Now, the WWE hasn't given him a chance yet because he's still so green in that area.
And he's also 35.
Even
They're running out of time.
Exactly. And he's amazing. He's high-flying. He's fun to watch.
And
But that people aren't going to want him to hold a belt, so they're not going to give it to him.
Speaking of that, him being 35, how much longer is he able to keep up with that high flying and the acrobatics?
I mean,
Jeff Hardy's getting up there, and what he was doing. I mean, even in his late run, we're talking 6 years later, but he was still in his early to mid 30s, and he was still going to the top. Heck, back in 2008 or so, 2008. You're jumping 30 feet onto something. But remember when they changed the stage?
Don't kid yourself, man. Jeff Hardy's gonna be running a million miles an hour until he dies in that ring.
That's true. Now wait, here's my question. Old WWE wrestlers that went their separate ways but are making their way back to the company. Are they gonna debut?
Like Rhino and...
Yeah, Rhino came back to NXT.
Brian Kendricks.
Dudley's, they went to WWE.
Yeah.
Where do you think all these other guys are going to go that are looking for work or trying to make that break?
They're probably going to go to NXT because they're hungry again. WWE's obviously going to bring the paycheck, but NXT brings the entertainment.
That's true.
But gentlemen, I'm going to thank you for your time. Guys, tune in this February, setting up for WrestleMania, replacing Fastlane, WWE versus NXT. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Do you want to do a fake match?